Every great book hides a story beyond its pages. Discover remarkable authors, unforgettable novels, and the secrets behind the words. Welcome to Stories Between the Lines. In December 1926, a woman disappeared who understood better than almost anyone how to hide clues. Her car was found abandoned near the edge of a road. Some of her personal belongings were still inside, but there was no sign of the woman herself. Police searched forests, lakes, and nearby villages. Thousands of volunteers joined the investigation. Newspapers published the darkest possible theories. Some believed Agatha Christie was dead. Others suspected that her husband knew far more than he was admitting. But 11 days later, the missing writer was found alive in a luxury hotel. She had been reading newspapers, listening to music, and talking with other guests. All the while, her photograph was appearing on front pages across the country. So what really happened to Agatha Christie? Why did the creator of some of literature's greatest mysteries turn her own life into a detective story? And why has that mystery never been fully solved? Agatha Mary Clarissa Miller was born on September 15, 1890, in the English seaside town of Torquay. She grew up in a comfortable family and was educated at home. The future writer was a shy child with a powerful imagination. She invented characters, spoke to imaginary friends, and began creating short stories at an early age. But literature was not her only interest. Agatha loved music and once dreamed of becoming a professional pianist or an opera singer. Performing in front of an audience, however, was too difficult for her. Later, that same shyness became an important part of her talent as a writer. She developed the habit of quietly observing and listening to people. She noticed not only what they said, but also what they were trying to hide. In 1912, Agatha met a young officer named Archibald Christie. Their relationship developed quickly and passionately. Despite concerns from her family, they married on Christmas Eve in 1914. By then, the First World War had already begun. Archibald served as a military pilot, while Agatha worked as a volunteer nurse. She later transferred to the dispensary of a hospital. There, the future novelist learned about medicines, chemicals, and poisons. She would use that knowledge in her books for decades. The poisons in Agatha Christie's novels feel convincing for a reason. She understood which substances could kill. She knew how quickly symptoms might appear. And she knew what mistakes a murderer could make. Agatha began writing her first detective novel after a challenge from her older sister. Her sister doubted that Agatha could create a proper mystery. Agatha decided to prove her wrong. The result was The Mysterious Affair at Styles. It was in this novel that readers first met Hercule Poirot. He was a small Belgian detective with perfectly maintained mustaches. He had enormous self-confidence and an almost obsessive love of order. Several publishers rejected the manuscript. The book was finally published in 1920. It did not make Agatha famous overnight, but it marked the beginning of one of the most successful literary careers in history. In 1919, Agatha and Archibald had a daughter named Rosalind. From the outside, their life may have appeared comfortable and successful. They had a young family, growing literary fame, international travel, and a beautiful home. But gradually, their marriage began to fall apart. The turning point came in 1926. For Agatha, it became a year of extraordinary professional success and devastating personal crisis. In the spring, her mother died. Agatha had been extremely close to her and struggled deeply with the loss. She was left largely alone to deal with her mother's home and personal belongings. At the same time, her husband was becoming increasingly distant. Eventually, Archibald admitted that he had fallen in love with another woman named Nancy Neal. He asked Agatha for a divorce. It was another crushing blow. Within a short period, Agatha had lost her mother. She had been rejected by her husband, and she found herself in a state of severe emotional exhaustion. Meanwhile, her professional career was accelerating. That same year, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd was published. The novel made Agatha Christie one of the most discussed writers of her generation. She broke the traditional rules of detective fiction. She created an ending that delighted some readers and angered others. But while the public argued about her novel, a real tragedy was unfolding in her private life. On the evening of December 3, 1926, Agatha and Archibald had another argument. Her husband then left to spend the weekend with Nancy Neal. Agatha went upstairs to the room of her 7-year-old daughter. She kissed Rosalind goodnight. Then she got into her car and drove away from the house. The following morning, the writer's car was found near Newlands Corner in Surrey. The vehicle had been left close to a slope. Some of her belongings were still inside, but Agatha was nowhere to be found. A huge search operation began. Police officers, volunteers, and journalists searched forests, fields, lakes, and nearby villages. Thousands of people took part. Search dogs were used. Aircraft were reportedly involved as well. The disappearance of a famous novelist became a national sensation. Some newspapers suggested suicide. Others discussed the possibility of murder. Suspicion inevitably fell on Archibald. The public knew about the problems in the marriage. They also knew about his relationship with another woman. The situation increasingly resembled the plot of one of Agatha Christie's own novels: an abandoned car, an unhappy marriage, a husband's lover, a missing wife. And no body. One day passed, then another, but investigators found no convincing trace of the missing writer. Meanwhile, Agatha Christie was nearly 300 kilometers away from the place where her car had been discovered. She was staying at a hotel in the spa town of Harrogate. She had registered under the name Teresa Neal. The choice was particularly strange. Neal was the surname of the woman for whom her husband wanted to leave her. At the hotel, Agatha behaved calmly. She attended musical evenings. She read and spoke with other guests. She also enjoyed the hotel's facilities. Some guests noticed that she resembled the photographs of the missing writer, but no one immediately reported it. Eventually, she was recognized by a musician who worked at the hotel. On December 14th, 11 days after her disappearance, Archibald Christie arrived there. The mystery had reached an unexpected conclusion. But the most important explanation never came. According to her family, Agatha could not remember what had happened after she left home. Doctors suggested that she may have suffered memory loss following an intense emotional shock. Agatha herself almost never spoke publicly about those 11 days. In her autobiography, she described many important events from her life in great detail. But she almost completely avoided the subject of her disappearance. That silence created several competing theories. According to the first theory, Agatha experienced a genuine nervous breakdown. She may also have suffered from a condition resembling dissociative amnesia. Within a short period, she had lost her mother. She had discovered her husband's affair, and she had endured overwhelming emotional pressure. Supporters of this explanation believe that her strange behavior was the result of severe psychological trauma. According to a second theory, the disappearance was an attempt to punish her unfaithful husband. The abandoned car may have encouraged the police to suspect Archibald. Her decision to use the surname of his lover may have done the same. However, there is no conclusive evidence that Agatha deliberately tried to frame him. There is also a theory that the entire event was a publicity stunt, but that explanation is not particularly convincing. Agatha was already becoming a successful novelist. Such a scandal could have damaged her reputation as easily as it could have increased book sales. This period is more often described as one of grief, exhaustion, and marital collapse. It does not appear to have been a carefully planned advertising campaign. We may never know the complete truth. The woman who always gave her readers a clear solution in the final chapter left the greatest mystery of her own life unexplained. After her return, Agatha and Archibald's marriage could not be saved. They divorced in 1928, but the disappearance did not destroy her career. Agatha continued writing and gradually built a new life for herself. In 1930, during a journey through the Middle East, she met an archaeologist named Max Mallowan. He was almost 14 years younger than she was. They married later that same year. Their relationship proved far happier than her first marriage. Agatha accompanied Max on archaeological expeditions in Syria and Iraq. She helped clean and catalog discoveries. She photographed objects. She also used some of her own money to support the excavations. These journeys gave her new settings and new characters. The Middle East appeared in novels such as Death on the Nile. It also inspired Murder in Mesopotamia and Appointment with Death. Agatha Christie had a remarkable understanding of human weakness. Her murderers are rarely monsters who exist completely outside ordinary society. More often, they are ordinary people. They are driven by jealousy, fear, money, humiliation, or the desperate need to protect a secret. She was interested not only in how a crime had been committed. The more important question was why. Why would an apparently normal person decide to cross the final line? During her lifetime, Agatha Christie wrote dozens of detective novels, collections of short stories, and stage plays. She created two very different but equally famous detectives. Hercule Poirot depends on logic, order, and his knowledge of human psychology. Miss Marple appears to be a harmless elderly woman, but she understands the darker side of human nature better than many professional investigators. Fame did not turn Agatha into a highly public person. She disliked giving interviews and preferred a quiet family life. Even after becoming one of the most famous writers in the world, she maintained her habit of quietly observing the people around her. A conversation on a train could inspire her. So could a strange married couple in a restaurant. Even a casual remark from a stranger could eventually become part of a murder in one of her books. Agatha Christie died on January 12, 1976. She was 85 years old, but her stories continue to be published, adapted, and discovered by new generations of readers. So which of her books should you read first? The first choice is And Then There Were None. 10 strangers travel to an isolated island. Soon, they begin dying one after another. It is a dark, tense, and almost perfectly constructed story. There is no Poirot and no Miss Marple. The reader is left alone with a group of suspects, and with the growing feeling that there is no escape from the island. The second choice is The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It is best to read this novel without learning anything about it in advance. Do not search for explanations of the ending. Avoid online discussions. The novel demonstrates how boldly Agatha Christie was willing to challenge the expectations of her readers. The third choice is Murder on the Orient Express. A luxurious train is stopped by heavy snow. One of the passengers is found murdered. The killer must be among the people trapped inside the carriages. It is one of the most famous Poirot novels. It is also an excellent example of a classic mystery set in a closed environment. Behind the image of a calm English lady was a woman who had experienced war. She had survived the death of her mother. She had endured betrayal, public scandal, and her own mysterious disappearance. Perhaps that is why she understood fear, jealousy, loneliness, and the secrets people keep even from those closest to them. Agatha Christie knew how to hide the truth in plain sight. But in December 1926, she did not hide a fictional murderer from her readers. She hid herself from the entire world. What do you think happened to Agatha Christie during those 11 days? Did she genuinely lose her memory? Or was she deliberately trying to teach her husband a lesson? And which of her books would you recommend to a first-time reader? Share your opinion in the comments. This was Stories Between the Lines, a channel where we explore remarkable authors, unforgettable books, and the secrets hidden between the words.